Welcome to the Financial Freedom Secrets Show. This is your host, Jackson Milan, the Wealth Mentor, helping business owners create financial freedom faster by mastering the language of money. Want to see how well you're tracking towards financial freedom? Complete our 40-point financial performance scorecard at wealthhealthcheck.com.au. That's wealthhealthcheck.com.au. The average score for most business owners is 18 out of 40. So complete the scorecard now and see how well you're tracking towards financial freedom. G'day guys, this is Jackson Milan, the Wealth Mentor, and we are here for another episode of the Financial Freedom Secrets podcast. And I have a new friend of mine here joining us, which I'm super excited about today, kicking off the podcast for this year. We've got April Beach all the way from the US, and we're going to be talking all about intellectual property and how to package, monetize, and license all of that amazing stuff that you've got in that big brain of yours. And you're probably leaving chips on the table when it comes to building wealth, creating passive income, and diversifying your business. So, April, thanks for joining us. How you doing?
I'm awesome. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm excited.
And how's the weather on your side of the world?
I am on 2 feet of snow here that is not melting in Boulder, Colorado, but that's okay because the skiing is very good right now.
I am very jealous. That's one of the downsides of living in the tropics. It is over 30 degrees Celsius here today. It's very much tropical, very much like a Costa Rica-esque style environment, but there's definitely no skiing up here, I tell you.
We can't have a downside in Costa Rica in the tropics in the same sentence to me, but yeah.
I can't complain. I can't complain.
Get it.
So, April, for those who don't know you, tell us a little about you and your journey so far.
Oh my goodness. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. So I've actually been a lifestyle entrepreneur my whole life. So when we talk about coaching and business strategy, I was born like walking into this world because my parents were lifestyle entrepreneurs. So my journey so far has truly been a lifelong journey into entrepreneurship. And what that means is I have seen something that nobody else has actually done before because I didn't really feel like I fit into the mold of what was already out there. And so I figured out how to carve a path and kind of be like water flowing through the rocks with my own business. And that's what I help other clients do as well. So my journey in entrepreneurship literally is, well, back to birth, it would be 46 years. But I've been coaching other experts, coaches, consultants, authors, and speakers for now 27 years. So a very long time.
Fantastic. And look, I think for a lot of these types of businesses, they're very much trading time for money. Even though it might be a lot of money, they're typically offering consulting, coaching, programs, masterminds. Would I be right?
Yes. Almost every single one of them. They're taking their wisdom and they're helping people to gain traction and to be better at it. But oftentimes what they're doing is they're exchanging their own livelihood and their own lifestyle in the process.
It's very interesting. I've got a philosophy around this when it comes to wealth building is that when we're getting started, we trade time for money. And then we ideally get to a point where we trade money for time. And then the wealthiest people in the world trade money for money. It's basically like playing a big game of Monopoly, right? Because you're just trying to magnify the money that you've got. And it's it's not very correlated to your effort and expertise. And this is why my eyes lit up when I met you, is because I'm like, wow, I understand the value of IP, but there's this whole world that's uncharted for me that I have absolutely no idea about. So where did you stumble across the idea of people monetizing their intellectual property and the idea of licensing?
Right. So I was actually approached by a company, and this happens often with my clients when they come to me for help. They're usually approached by a company that wants to license their content, and they have no idea how to do that. And so that happened to me, and it was back in 2009, and back in another life, if you will. I actually am the creator of the international parent coaching industry. And so what I had done is I had developed a series of online courses. It seems like thousands of years ago in the online world. So we had online courses back in 2008 and before it was really a thing. And so I had these courses that we were distributing from my business to consumers. And I was originally approached by a hospital who is the big hospital organization that wanted all of my classes. I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. I had never heard of this before. And it was just this opportunity that presented itself. So I figured out how to navigate that once. And then I learned how to navigate it multiple times in my own business. And since then, we have our courses launched to entrepreneurs and companies in 13 countries. And we've worked with multiple organizations to do it. And I've been helping other entrepreneurs do that as well for the last 10 years. So it wasn't something that I planned. Like most things, it just an opportunity presented itself. And I realized I needed to figure out a pathway first for myself. And then it is like a hidden secret. Nobody's really talking about this. And like you were saying, there's so many assets that people leave on the table, and the opportunities are really endless with this.
My head's already spinning thinking about this, Aaron, because there's just so many opportunities here. And when I think about this, like just what was going through my head is, okay, if I was to package up all of my IP and say sell it to a corporate or an enterprise, like how long is a piece of string? How do you determine price? So let's start at the very beginning of this and give people a little bit of a framework, because I'm sure you've got a system around this. So let's say that somebody realizes they've got good intellectual property. Maybe somebody's reached out to them. What's the process, and can you talk us through it?
Yeah. So first, I'm going to tell you what usually happens so people can recognize it when it happens to them. And then we're going to kind of go back to the right way to do it. So what usually happens is like what happened with me. So somebody will be speaking, or they'll be sharing or networking, and a company says, wow, whatever you have, that would be really great for our company, or can we bring that in? And what usually happens, and where we usually try to catch our clients, is they move into an arrangement without understanding how that's going to affect them long term. And so we get calls all the time from, oh my gosh, this company just approached me. This is what I said. And my heart kind of sinks sometimes, because the truth of the matter is I've come across too many entrepreneurs who've accidentally given away their life's work to one company and in one agreement because they didn't realize actually how to structure it. So really the first place where we want to start is understanding that we have two sides of our business. We have this B2C side, we have this B2B side. And with these two sides of our business, which one do we want, or which ones do we want to move forward with? What does that actually look like? Especially if we want to stay in the B2C side, then what do we take from there that we're willing to give to other companies? Because what we take from what we've already created is going to affect our long-term future. And so the first thing is understanding our long-term strategy, our long-term profit plan. And as individuals with me, because we talk always about life and what that looks like, what's the cadence of how we want to work, and what do I see myself doing in 5, 7, 10 years from now, and making sure that aligns with licensing. In most companies, when they first come to us, that's part of the strategy we talk about. First, most companies still kind of keep their foot in both sides. We have a B2C side, and then we move over, or in that B2B side with licensing. And so if that's the case, there are certain things that we'll pull from our assets, and there's certain things we won't touch. So for example, sometimes we want that gold standard to remain in the primary company. We necessarily don't want to give away the whole entire, kit and caboodle. However, we can move into that. Or I have clients that are just like, I'm so done with this. I'm done with launches. I'm done with serving people one-on-one. I'm so tired of even being the one who's delivering my IP in group coaching programs. It doesn't work with me. It doesn't work with my life. They're tired. They're kind of bored. Sometimes the clients that we've been working with, they've been doing what they've been doing for a really long time, and they're ready to engineer kind of a next level of their business. And this is a new challenge, and it's usually a lot more money than the money they've been making before. So we usually always want to start with, what does this look like, and why are we doing this? Because we can craft any sort of business model, any sort of packaging deal we want. But where companies really need to start is understanding. So as an example, going back to what I was doing in the whole parent coaching side, before I created the parent coaching industry, I was a business strategist and coached. That was just something I did along the way. And I was very much looking to get out of that and go back to primarily coaching, scaling businesses. And so my strategy of giving away my courses didn't affect my business, because I was trying to get out of that B2C side of my business anyway. So therefore, how I could package my classes, how I could release them, and what I could charge for them was different. Because, I hate to say I don't care anymore, but I wasn't going to be selling that individually. Most of our clients still are kind of keeping their feet in both camps. And so how we strategize what they give away, what IP they're willing to release, the length of time, the transformation within that IP actually depends on their long-term goals.
Wow. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. And look at this from two angles. I guess there's the people that go the whole hog. They jump at the opportunity because it can be a lot of money, right? Like I've had a number of colleagues and clients who've been offered like significant corporate deals. Like we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
But the risk there is obviously that if you don't get that agreement right, you're potentially signing over. It might be a perpetual or a lifetime license. In some cases, if you get some terminology wrong there, you're giving them the asset. So if you go and try and sell your business, there's a huge chunk of value in your business that may not be there. You may not actually be able to sell.
Right.
On the flip side, I guess I see that there's a lot of coaches and consultants that work themselves to burnout because they don't see any other way. And I should probably say experts overall, because we don't just work with coaches and consultants. We've got a lot of really great professional services experts and also trade experts that run what we call the Mr. or Mrs. X model, where they're the business. They've accumulated all of this great IP and experience, and then they just go, cool, wipe their hands of it. No one's going to buy my business because the business is me. And then that IP is all lost. It seems like there's this amazing sweet spot in the middle of that where there's just this potentially a blue ocean, which is awesome. So it's interesting to see how people get this wrong. So let's assure that people understand that this aligns with their business. So, okay, licensing is for me. It aligns with my long-term vision. How do we start packaging it and positioning it for it to be licensed? What does that look like?
Right. So the first is understanding truly whether or not you still want to have a space in your business. So there are two different types of agreements. We have the licensing, usually of the IP, of the content of the course, and companies oftentimes want access to that on demand. So it could even be, I was actually just meeting before this with one of our clients. She has a book and their process is in her book, and we're turning her book into a program that can be licensed by companies. So does the content require her to be there? So always, no matter what, whether it's a scaling business and we're building a company's first course or their first program, or we're talking about licensing, the first thing is when we're talking about packaging, is it still going to be transformational? The question is, we have to guarantee with our content that we are delivering predictable, transformational, measurable results with our training. And so we first want to look at, if we've been doing something that's one-on-one, or so we're pulling from a book, how can we still deliver measurable, predictable transformations by changing the model and packaging it, and have a really, honestly, like a come to Jesus with a content. Just because we can package and sell it doesn't actually mean that we should, in it with integrity of our area of expertise, if we know that it needs to be delivered in a certain way. So we look at the content that we do know that we can deliver a transformation, even if we aren't there. And then the packaging process, really, there's a couple of rules of thumb to this. There are two parts. There's licensing and there's consulting or coaching. And I like to tell our clients that we want to separate out those agreements. We want to create the licensing package, let's say, for example, with their course, and we want to enable the company to access that on demand. And there's a bunch of ins and outs, whether it's in their LMS or in our LMS. And those are some of the details and the nitty-gritty we get into. But then if the content requires that there is some sort of training, what does that look like? Are we then building a train the trainer program on top of it? Are we having the leader, the niche expert, the expert, him or herself, come in and teach workshops on top of the content? Are we having somebody from their team who may be trained in their methodology come in and teach workshops either to the end user, to the employees, or whoever's actually utilizing the training? Or maybe it's just to the team leads. Maybe it's to the C-suite executives. So we look at the packaging of the content and we figure out, honestly, how can we pull you out? Again, most of our clients are tired of coaching. They don't want to sell a licensing package and they're going to be in this huge contract, right? So how can we pull out the expert, but still deliver a measurable transformation? And it usually comes with a combination of licensing the content, some train the trainer type of delivery, mentorship, coaching, and even the third part to that is creating a certification in the leader's methodology and figuring out which way is the best based on what we're delivering. So it really depends on the magnitude of information that we're expecting somebody to learn through our program and whether or not we're packaging that in a way that we actually can guarantee a result. Because just like you said, if we have, let's say in the past, the way it was before, if we have one or two clients come through our group coaching program and they're struggling, Well, ideally, we have concierge, we have support people built in that can help them. But when we're licensing our program to a company that might be distributing it to 10,000 people, how do we make sure that we're doing what is absolutely best for that end user? And how are we crafting that to the best of our ability? So around packaging, it starts with the IP itself. What are we teaching? What can people expect from this? How best is it being delivered? And then once we answer the how best is it delivered in as much on demand as we can, building in disruption and cool other ways to help people winning and gamification and all these other things that we can even build into licensing. Now the question is does that work with the way that the CEO, the owner wants to deliver this? Because if it doesn't, then we kind of have to stop. Because licensing is super tempting, and the magnitude, again, of what we deliver and how we deliver it always comes down to the business model. And any business we're building, our business model dictates our life and our profit and everything else. We have to make sure it aligns with what the owner wants. So the packaging process is the IP and the delivery of that.
Yes, it makes so much sense. This is genius. And I guess this just kind of illustrates why you need this level of expertise. Even from our experience, we had this idea of trying to create a low-ticket wealth education program. Invested quite a lot of time in it. And the idea was, obviously, we didn't want to sell it B2C because it's so low ticket. It doesn't make a lot of sense. The effort and the reward just don't necessarily stack up to our other offers. But the idea was that we build this and then we sell it in mass to corporates and other big businesses. And as a result, it turns out to be another high-ticket thing because it's being done in volume. And we kind of missed the mark in terms of what the market wanted. We thought we knew what they wanted and didn't necessarily know what they wanted. And as such, we went down a rabbit hole and it didn't necessarily get us the result. And I'm sure that's probably like pretty commonplace with people who try and work this out for themselves. Would I be right?
Yeah, it is. Just because we've created it and we can sell it, it doesn't mean that a different user will buy it. So, we have two audiences when we sell licensed programs, right? We have the end user, but our new audience, our new buyer are the decision makers within companies. And sometimes, and here's the truth, sometimes decision makers are checking off a box because they need to have a program in a certain area. And sometimes decision makers and companies really want to create a change. And so actually what we find is that most companies that come back to our clients when we have, let's say, an 8-module course, they'll come back and they'll say, this is fantastic. We'll take 3 modules. And so it's really like understanding, okay, how do we navigate this process? And you hit the nail on the head because we framework it. Just like we do with our scaling coaches and our scaling programs, we need to create a process that is easily duplicatable as possible, right? But I will tell you, every single licensed buyer, especially the bigger companies with the more users, there is going to take some tweaking in the content. And so we're careful about how much we actually put into that, even where we build it. I've had clients come to me who have spent a year building a course that they want to license in their own LMS, in Kajabi or, wherever it is. And then we go to license it and the company's like, no. We just want this in our LMS. We're not going to send people to you. And they literally spent a year building it when they had no idea where their buyer actually wanted the content because they hadn't gone through the strategy of understanding, who their best buyer is and how they're going to utilize this and how important it is to them. So 100%, we need to have it frameworked. We need to have a predictable, measurable program. We're pulling that from the other assets that you're saying that have been sitting on the table. So we already have the majority of it built. And then we need to have a process and a recommended packaging. But with each buyer, there is some sort of a give and take about what they're really looking for and what we're willing to give. And I will say along those lines too, I've had clients where companies have come back and said, listen, we really want this, but we just want this one part of it. And my clients have actually said no out of integrity because they know that they can't deliver the transformation, especially in certain areas like mental health areas and wellness areas, because the company just might want to actually check off a box and add something that looks really good and makes them competitive, but isn't going to make a change. So sometimes we get back to a decision point of saying, if you really want to create a change within your organization, even if it's teaching somebody a skill, you can't just have 3 modules. You need all 4, whatever that is. And so there is sometimes a give and take about the actual packaging of the offer when it comes to the table.
Yes, it makes so much sense. We had a deal that we were trying to negotiate with a big real estate company, and the conversation started because they wanted to teach their people how to invest, how to better manage their money. Because like, okay, if we can teach them how to invest, then they're going to be happier and more fulfilled, and they're going to stay for longer. And they just wanted our kind of investing 101 component of our foundations program. Like, investing is the vehicle. Unless they've defined their goals and what they're trying to achieve, and then they're able to work back what their investment strategy needs to be to support that, it's not going to add any value. It's just one piece of the puzzle. It's very superficial. Right. And we couldn't come to an agreement on that. And unfortunately, it just didn't work out. So, yeah, it's one of those things. I think it's important. You've got to have those values, understand your methodology, and then ensure that you have the right framework in place.
Right.
So I think this leads us to pricing.
Yeah.
How do we put a price on this?
Yeah. So before we go to pricing, the next thing we need to be talking about is there are a couple different decision-making benchmarks in the actual packaging of the offer itself. And all of this is going to affect pricing. People come to me all the time and they're like, oh my gosh, April, how much should I charge for this? And I can't answer this question until we already have this strategy in place. So here are the questions. Number one, how long do they have it? Number two, how many people get access to it? Number three, how is it branded? And the branding piece is really important. Is it branded as yours? So when they're delivering your course, is it your logo all over it, your name? It's level one. Is it co-branded where it can be your program presented by XYZ company? So it's co-branded, and we might do some co-branding within the actual design of the program itself. And then the third way is white labeling. And white labeling, they'll pay the most for that. I have licensed my program white labeling, but again, that's because I didn't need to be known for that. That's because I was moving as quickly and with as much profit out of that business space as I could. White labeling was perfect for me, but I'll be honest with you, I have very few clients that we actually white label their products because of the fact that when we talk about in the future where they want to go, what that positioning is, they want to be known for their genius, and white labeling totally removes that, although they'll get paid more for it. So once again, let me repeat those. Once, how many people have access to it? And there's some other details in here as well. Like, are you delivering it through your LMS, or are you uploading it and are they delivering it through their learning management system? What does that look like, and how much work is that for you? So the number of people accessing your program is going to dictate how many people we need to have on our side of it to handle the communications, the onboarding, and the operations. Even if it's delivered in their LMS, you have to, prepare for the fact that somebody's going to have a tech problem. Somebody's not going to be able to log in. Somebody's going to lose something. All these things that we really do get out of when we move into licensing. There's a period of time where we do have to manage some of that. How many people are we managing it for? What is it going to cost us? We did have a client where we actually were delivering her program to an international nonprofit in her LMS. And it was very simple. Every single employee received an email saying, go here and click and sign up. But because of the individuals that weren't as tech savvy as we assumed they would be, it was like 30 hours of people just literally not knowing how to fill out the sign up form. And so there are some things that we need to consider in how many people are accessing it and how much time that's going to take from an operation standpoint. Because yes, this is like unicorns. All right. This is sunshines and rainbows and unicorns. And once we deliver it, it's gone and it's amazing. But depending on how we deliver it, again, where it lives, the process in which we're delivering it is going to change our pricing. And so all of those things need to be taken into consideration along with the branding. How long do they get it? I usually recommend our clients do a 2-year licensing agreement with their contract. So just rule of thumb, it's usually 2 years. And this 2-year agreement, it gives us a little bit of wiggle room. Number one, it gives a company enough time to onboard it for us to help support them and for us to see change. So we really want the company to win with our content. And it doesn't matter if this is like a huge company or a lot of my clients license their trainings to other smaller entrepreneurs. It's a great entry point. It doesn't have to be, JP Morgan Chase or whatever it is, American Airlines. I mean, one of the greatest entry points to this is licensing it to other small businesses that technically could have even been your competition in the past It's the best thing. I'd love to say we turn our competition into our clients. That's only if we're abandoning that B2C side of the business. But if we're moving totally over to B2B, we turn our competition into our clients and make a fortune, right? Just give them what they've wanted and try to compete with forever. All of that is going to change on the pricing. So I will tell you exactly the two different methods that we actually use to price it, but I want to make sure that that is clear because we're pulling different levers.
Yes.
That's why, we have a system, we have a project plan. It's called the Amplify Project Plan, where we guide our clients through these decision points and we consult them on what we believe is best based on what they've said, their situation, their goals are. But even with these different levers that we're pulling, it's going to spit out a different pricing response. And if we don't like that, we can go back and we can change a different lever. That's how the pricing process works.
Okay. Makes a lot of sense. Cool. All right. Now, what's interesting, I think, is there's probably some people listening to this that they've got an offer or they've got Genius that really closely aligns. Like, for example, if you've got some sort of productivity program that it's easy to roll out to a corporate because it's in their best interest, or potentially like a wellness or a mental health program, relatively straightforward. But I'm sure there's some people here that are maybe struggling to think about, okay, well, how does my Genius and my experience apply in this context? So just so we can kind of set the frame here, what's the most obscure or niche industry that you have helped implement a strategy like this, April?
I love this question. All right. So first of all, nothing is off the table. You guys would be absolutely surprised at what companies are buying. And in addition to some of the examples I'll give you, I want you guys to remember that companies are trying to teach their employees to think like entrepreneurs.
Yes.
We think different. We do things different. Most of us have ADHD and a bunch of things going on. The way we see things, the way we create things is very outside of the box. And companies are always looking for their people to think more entrepreneurially, but stay with the company in that capacity. And so there are so many different opportunities here across the board. The first ones to sell, I don't ever want to say the easiest to sell, but the most popular ones, obviously sales. Sales trainings, communications with sales, how to close deals, how to, run sales calls. Sales for sure first. Productivity, huge. And, we look at the things that companies, these are for bigger companies. We look at the things that companies are looking for. Obviously, they want to increase their sales. They want to help their people be more productive. But then the third way is they don't want to spend money losing their top talent, and they want to attract other top talent. So, the cost to replace employees can be up to 2.5 times their salary. I know here in the United States, right? Yeah. It's ridiculous. So, you pay somebody, even as low as like $50,000 a year, it's going to cost you $150,000 a year, plus the lost time and all these things to replace them. So they don't want to lose their people. And people want to be in places where they're being fed, especially after COVID, and they realize they can work from home. Why would I want to come back there? And so they're going to places that are very interested in developing them personally and professionally. So to start out with, coming from that kind of parent coaching space, we actually have parenting baby concierge programs that companies license. So this is a program that a company will pay for their employees that are expecting a baby, that help them get ready for baby. Now, it's great for the employee. But why is it great for the company? It's great for the company because otherwise that mom and that dad would be sitting there all day long on Amazon.com or Google or whatever it is, so they'd be wasting time. And so they want to make sure they're prepared and they're feeling ready to go, and they want to get them back to work. So other programs we have are return to work programs, helping, moms who've been out of work and helping with their everything from their mental health to their physical health to their organization, and return to work programs. So those are some of the ones that are really, really specific. Others, of course, are meditation, mindset, peak performance. All of those programs are really highly valuable. Other programs that we have are, and I say we, I always call my clients we, because yes. I think about them all day long. I'm like in the grocery store thinking about them. Other programs that we have licensed are like communication programs. So these are things that you wouldn't think is like a frontline program that a company is going to buy, but these are how to look somebody in the eye, how to be an active listener, how to say what you're hearing and speak up and work together in teams. Those are really important programs right now. But more of the off kind of strange programs. So if you guys are sitting here and you're thinking, I'm not qualified, First of all, let me speak to this. I've never worked for a corporation a day in my life. I've never walked in a 9 to 5. I've never sat in a cubicle. So if anybody would say, oh my gosh, you're so unqualified, it's me. This girl right here. I had no idea what these people were doing in there. No clue at all. Right. So let's just wipe that off right now. That is not true at all. When you have IP and when you have a process, when you have a framework or a method, that's always where we start with our clients, is creating their framework and their method, or revisiting it and revising it. And then that gives people results, and you're good to go. So back to the specific areas. So I had one client, she'd never worked in a corporation, and she was never a coach. And she went through this crazy life-changing event and picked herself back up off the floor and created this 8-module program on resiliency. And it is life skills and resiliency of how to pick yourself up off the floor after something terrible happens. And her program is now licensed by 2 of the largest school districts in California for their teachers. Wow. So, it really, really doesn't matter as long as we find the right buyer, right? The school districts wanted it for the teachers, especially post-COVID, because the fact that the teachers were struggling with what is happening? I'm losing my job and all these other things. And so as long as we have the right buyer. And then the last example I'll give you, which is, it's so cool, is we have a client who she was speaking on, she's a social media coach. She teaches how to do video on Instagram. So these are small things, right? How to do video on Instagram. And she was speaking at an event, and a university came up to her and said, listen, we're teaching marketing. This is I can't name it, but a big university. We're teaching marketing, and none of us have any idea how to teach what you just talked about. So the things that we, in the online business space, or we do every day, we're on Instagram, we're doing podcasts, we're going live, all these things, these companies and these universities, these organizations, these nonprofits, they don't know these things that a lot of us take for granted. And so now we had her program in actually 2 different universities, one here in the United States and one in Mexico. And so hopefully that just opens up your thought process on, believe me, anything you teach, it might not be that, Fortune 100 company, but there is a buyer that values that. And we want to package that program accordingly.
I love that. This has been super valuable, April. So let's say somebody listened to this and they're interested in finding out more, of getting your support to roll this out. What does that look like, and what would be the next best step for them?
So the next step is, I have a really powerful 40-minute video, and you guys can find it by going to license and then the number 2 and then the word scale.com. And in this video, I break out the most important decision points, and then there's a chance to come and work with us. So we host workshops once a quarter. I actually have one of them coming up here, where we go through this packaging process. And the whole thing is getting you guys to the starting line, giving you feedback on what you have, and helping you create a strategic plan. So we love this. I'll do this all day long. And it's so cool to be able to see all of basically your genius, all your listeners' genius, and then help you see really the doors that people didn't realize were open to them in this time frame. I mean, it's now is the time to do this, and it's still a secret. So
yeah, exactly.
I don't want to say don't share Jackson's podcast with anybody else.
We'll keep it within the listeners, and it'll be our little secret. But this is awesome. We'll link to the links in the show notes, and I'm also super excited that you're going to be coming to do a training for our private clients next week, which is going to be awesome. So we can go deeper on this stuff. I think it's a phenomenal idea. I personally believe this is the future. Intangible assets is going to become one of the most valuable part of service businesses, particularly over the course of the next decade, because there's just so much information out there. People are going to be happy to pay a premium for the curation of that high quality information. And this is exactly what this is. So this is just magical, and super excited to have connected with you. So guys, if you've enjoyed this episode of the podcast, make sure that you reach out to April and her team, check the show notes, make sure that you share this with your friends. And April, I appreciate you making the time, and look forward to catching up again soon.
Thanks for having me. It was super fun.